want to kind of give a quick take on some things right now, and the question came about Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and once again, we have to set people straight on the fact that Kyle Pitts isn't a wide receiver. I at some point, you guys are just gonna have to stop this. Okay, he's not a wide receiver. Okay, I don't know why people continue to think that he is a wide receiver. When you look at Drake London, his height, he's 6'4", he's 213 pounds. You look at Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is 6'6", 240, almost 250 pounds. Okay. He has that much more width, girth, all that. He's a much bigger and much physical guy. Okay, that's another thing. Drake London. If you just look at Drake London and his career, Drake London has never had a reception over 45 yards. Okay, Drake London is not almost the exact same type of receiver when it comes down to what Kyle Pitts is. All right, that's one thing. If you look at his routes, Drake doesn't run a lot of the routes that Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is actually a much more versatile. He's a much more versatile route runner than Drake London is. Kyle Pitts is a much more versatile route runner than Drake London is. I know a lot of people probably thinking to themselves like, no, he really is. If you look at the film, you see two things, and you see two things. Drake London is running a lot of slants, he's running a lot of dig routes, and he's running a lot of out routes. He doesn't run a lot of 9 routes, post routes, and all those types of things that push the ball downfield. He doesn't run those types of routes. Drake London doesn't run those. You see Kyle Pitts running those routes. You see Kyle Pitts running the 9. You see Kyle Pitts running the post across the middle, the drag routes across the middle. That's what Drake London, he doesn't necessarily have the speed. If you look at the speed, Kyle Pitts has the speed. So these guys aren't the same type of receiver. The reason why I'm saying this because my boy Matt left a comment, and I wanted to speak on this. Like I said, I told you I was going to do a little bit more of these live shows, and y'all keep these comments. You keep them coming. So he said, Mike quit with the excuses for Pitts. Drake been through the same thing. He's gotten better. Okay? Let me address that. Well, Drake London has gotten better. If you just look at what Drake is, okay? Drake is a quarterback's best friend because he has the size, has the physicality. On the wide receiver, he's a little bit more crisp out of his breaks in regards to running those deep outs and whatnot. He's much more physical when it comes to attacking the ball. So he's a quarterback's best friend. Okay, when you look at what he does, he doesn't run a lot of double moves when it comes down to his route running. You're not looking for Drake London to attack the ball downfield. That's just not his strength. Going back to college, that's not necessarily his strength is attacking safeties downfield. What Drake London does, he beats one-on-ones against the corners, whether it's inside. He uses his size when he's when they're pushing the ball downfield. He usually uses his size. He doesn't necessarily have the speed. I think Drake London actually runs about a 4.5. Kyle Pitts is about a 4.4, somewhere between a 4.45 and a 4.47, 4.48. So he's a lot faster than Drake. Drake doesn't have that immediate burst off the line. So when you look at the comparison with Drake London and Kyle Pitts is a much more versatile route runner than him. One of the things when you look at Kyle Pitts, you just look at a guy that can push the ball downfield, okay? able to push the ball downfield with the big plays. And you've seen it, and for the most part in his entire career. Starting off right off the bat with a guy like Matt Ryan. He had 130 targets when he played with Matt Ryan. So he was targeted a lot more. He was with Matt Ryan. They pushed the ball down with him. But like I said, with Drake London, he's never had a catch over 45 yards in his career. So if you look at what Drake London is, he's a wide receiver that is a volume catcher. Now, these aren't the same thing as a guy that is explosive. Can he make big plays? Yes, he make big plays, getting first down, keeping the clock turning. And that's why I said Drake London is a different type of wide receiver. He's not a big play receiver, but he keeps the clock turning. He makes big time plays, whether it's in the end zone or getting the first down. That's what he does. He's very good, obviously, at blocking. But again, when you look at this guy, he's not the same type of. He's definitely not the same type of receiver that a guy like Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is much more explosive when you look at these guys. And again, you try to compare Drake London and Kyle Pitts, they're just not the same. They're not the same. Yeah, these guys are big. Yeah, they're a little bit more, they are physical. But Drake London doesn't have the explosiveness that a Kyle Pitts has. So when we talk about has Drake London gotten better, I want to hold on to that. I want to hold that because when you look at Drake London right now, he's a high volume catcher. The quarterbacks in this system, again, he's one of those guys that you look at what he does, he gets first downs. All right. He is the Mike Evans of this Atlanta Falcons team. So again, these are not the same type of receivers. They're not the same type of players. And the comparison with a Drake London with the Kyle Pitts it's just not an accurate one. Now, if you look at the second part, is where he said no way you requiring not requiring playoffs for Raheem. Now, I'm not requiring Raheem to get. That's your take, okay? That's y'all take. Maybe that's something that y'all want. I'm not looking for Raheem to get to the playoffs. I'm looking for Raheem to do one thing and one thing only, and that's improve as a head coach. If he improves as a head coach, and I'm talking about defensively, okay, making the in-game adjustments, doing what we need for him to do is call timeouts, blitz, make the necessary adjustment. When you see your defensive backs getting, pushed back, or the offense is checking the ball down a lot to get the ball into their receivers' hands, I need him to make those in-game adjustments. So for me, I'm not requiring him to get to the playoffs. That's something that's more of a team issue. But as far as this Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem, if he improves as a coach, if he improves as a defensive strategist, as a head coach, everything will take care of itself. We need for him to do what he needs to do as a head coach and adjust. It's all about adjustment. So for me, I'm not looking for Raheem to get to the playoffs. I'm looking for him to improve as a defensive guy, and the playoffs will take care of itself if he improves as a head coach. All right, and the third part about this, he said, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but there's no way you're okay with the run defense. Those stats are misleading. No, it's not misleading. The Falcons' biggest issue was not run stop, okay? It wasn't their run stopping. I don't care if it's misleading or not. When I play against the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley and that offensive line don't rush for over 150, 200 yards, it's a win. Okay? This is the best running offense in the league. And the Atlanta Falcons beat them at their own game. They stopped them. They slowed them down. I'm not concerned about this Atlanta Falcons run defense. You can say whatever you want to be as everybody else, but when I look at this Atlanta Falcons defense, Raheem Moore, Jimmy Lake, David Grady Jarrett, those guys did a pretty good job of stopping the run. Now, the issue all season was the Atlanta Falcons would get 5 yards, and then they would get 5 yards, and then they either get a quick slant coming out of the slot, and then you would get they would get a quarterback. The quarterback, whether it's Bryce Young, they lost the game against Chicago with Pittsburgh, they lost the game against Pittsburgh with Chicago's quarterback, and that's Justin Fields. Why? Because they could not stop the run via the quarterback position, extending the possessions with the quarterback. That's what the Achilles heel with the Atlanta Falcons is. So stopping the run with the running back is something I wasn't concerned with. And again, I go back to this. The Atlanta Falcons have much more athletic guys. They have much more athletic edge guys. You got Braylon Trask coming in. You got Jalen Walker. You got James Pierce Jr. You got Leonard Floyd. I'm not worried about their ability or inability to stop the run. They got much more athletic guys. So for me, I got Jeff Ulbrich coming in as a linebackers coach. This is what he do. He preaches the gap integrity. He's going to improve that. So I'm not concerned about any yet. I'm not concerned about any of that. So, and again, Drake London. Again, I want to emphasize this, and I really want people to hear me when I say this. Drake London, just because he's 6'4", doesn't mean that he's a great route runner. Okay? Say it again. Drake London is not a great or excellent route runner. What Drake does well is much like Mike Evans. These guys use their size, they use their physicality to get open. He's like a Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin wasn't great at route running. He wasn't great at a lot of things, but Michael Irvin was physical. He could beat DBs with his physicality. Okay? This is how he beat a Deion Sanders. He was much more physical than a lot of guys. The Keyshawn Johnson of the world, the Calvin Johnson. These guys was much more physical than a lot of these guys, okay? A lot of wide receivers. They didn't win because they were super athletic and they can run every route. A guy like Randy Moss is another guy when we talk about what he could and could not do. Randy Moss wasn't an excellent route runner. It was just the routes that he was excellent, and the things that he could do, he was excellent at those particular things. Running the 9 route, running the post routes, the dig routes across the middle. But a guy like Randy Moss, he could not run every route like a Julio Jones can, like a Marvin Harrison, like a Reggie Wayne, like a Torrey Holt, like a Isaac Bruce. He can't run all those routes. But what he's asked to do, he does it well. And that's the same thing with Drake London. He can't run those same routes. You're not looking for Drake London to run a 9 route down the field and get past the safety to beat a cornerback down the field. That's not what he does, okay? So when I hear people say that Drake London hasn't improved, yeah, that's easy to say when he's a high volume catcher. High volume catcher receivers are much more likely to have a long career. You look at Fitzgerald, he's another one of those guys. Didn't have blazing speed, but he was very good at getting open and being the best and the quarterback's best friend by being a high volume catcher, being able to run those slant routes, being able to use his size, be able to use his size, and just being physical. That's what these guys are. You look at another guy like Anquan Bolden, another guy, wasn't fast, wasn't super quick at anything, but he was able to use his size and use his eyes and his physicality to get open. And that's the thing when you talk about wide receivers, tight ends, and whatnot. I see what Drake is. Drake has never been a great route runner, okay? That's one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't understand why the Atlanta Falcons even took Drake London, because he wasn't one of those guys coming out of the draft that was super fast. He was just a big physical wide receiver. So when I see people saying Drake and trying to compare Drake and Kyle Pitts, even going back to college, Kyle Pitts was a guy that wasn't super athletic as far as the routes that he was asked to run, okay? Never that. Okay? Both of those guys were never that. And what you have in a Kyle Pitts and Drake London is that you have two guys that can be extremely physical in the middle of the field. That's the thing that you look at the Atlanta Falcons. So when they get a guy like Darnell Mooney who can get pushed downfield, you got a guy like Ray Cloud who can push the ball downfield, who can attack the he can attack the middle of the field and attack those safeties. That's when you get the best out of a Drake London. Because if you go back during this past season, there was a couple of games where Drake London didn't get a lot of passes because, he only had, he Drake London could not get past the double team. And I'm gonna just say this: it's not quite often that you see teams double Drake London. Just gonna be honest. Okay? Just going to be honest. A lot of times, if you look at what the Atlanta Falcons are doing with Drake London, they're putting him, and this is something that Wondrell, a.k.a. Mr. Who? Mr. Tactician, talks about. They use Kyle Pitts on the same side to attack the safety, so we can use Drake London to maximize his skill set. And that's right there, when you have both of these guys together, that's what is dangerous. You got a guy physical and big with a Kyle Pitts, and then you have a big physical wide receiver who dominates the middle and short parts of the field. When you have that with a quarterback that has a big time arm, this is what makes this Atlanta Falcons offense that much more dangerous. So I do not say that Drake London isn't a good receiver, but he's a great receiver at what he does well. And that's the thing when I look at these guys. So again, a lot of people like to put the finger and say, all right, Drake London has improved. Well, if you really look at his numbers, he's a high volume. And again, a high volume receiver. The number says itself. If he's a big play player, if he's a big play receiver, just be honest. How many times have you seen Drake London get past a safety and go for a touchdown? How many times have you seen that with Kyle Pitts? Him get past the safety, get past a cornerback, and he's alone, and he done burnt them. You don't see it. Okay, answer that question. How often do we see Drake London burn a wide receiver deep? How many times do you see that during the course of a game? Georgia Texas boy said Drake and Mooney were both top 10 down the field plays plus 20. Plus 20. We're talking about big time plays. Those are considered 20 plus yards. But if you look at his total, Drake has never had any plays, he hasn't had anything past 45 yards downfield. Big time plays 45 plus. That's not what his game is. Drake will get you 10 to 15 to 20 yards consistently. But when you ask him to be a downfield target, that's not necessarily his strength. Okay, that's not necessarily Drake London's strength, and that's why you look at his target. His targets is always up to 100 plus. You're gonna get the best out of him, but if you want to get big plays downfield to stretch the field, that's not necessarily Drake London's strength. He's gonna beat one-on-ones. That's what Drake London is. But the thing is, if you don't have guys that can push those safeties back, how good and how good, not necessarily how good, but how dangerous is a Drake London is going to be for this Atlanta Falcons offense. That's essentially, I've said it time and time again, some receivers have become an extension of that tight end position. And that's what I look at Drake London. He's an extension of that tight end position. He controls the middle of the field. He uses his size, and he's a quality receiver, more than a quality receiver when it comes down to moving the clock. And that's the thing what you're getting for Drake. But if you're looking for explosive plays, Drake London is not necessarily the guy you're looking for explosive plays down the field. Don't get too hype, fans, but I'm really hype about to be absolute best this year. Like I said, when you look at Drake London, I just want people to realize the type of receiver that he is. And this is why you need guys like Kyle Pitts. You need guys like Darnell Mooney on the outside Because let's be honest, I've seen Darnell Mooney push the ball downfield a hell of a lot more than what I've seen Drake London. And we're talking about down the field, attacking those safeties. We don't ask Drake London to do that. A lot of times, if you want to be honest, Kyle Pitts is the one that's running those 9 routes and running those them seam routes toward safeties. A lot of times that's Darnell Mooney, and that's Darnell Mooney, not necessarily Darnell Mooney. Let me say that again. Ray McLeod, and that's Kyle Pitts. Those are the ones that running a lot of these clear out routes for the Atlanta Falcons. So I know a lot of people are not gonna like this because Drake London is that becoming much more of a big time player. He is getting there. But don't get it twisted. He's not a great route runner, okay? Drake London isn't a great route runner. He's very good at what he's asked to do, and that's all you can expect, okay? That's all you can respect and expect from this guy. Great at what he does. And again, it reminds me of a lot like Mike Evans. Mike Evans is not one of those guys you say, all right, this dude is an excellent route runner. Well, he wins. He wins his one-on-ones. That's what he does. He wins, and that's what you ask for a lot of your receivers. But when you look at Drake London, how many times have you seen during the course of a game? And I'm just being honest. Maybe I'm wrong, but how many times have you seen 2 to 3? Have you seen teams double teaming Drake all day long, all game long? How many times have we seen that? What's going on, Ju? And like I said, if you just look at the film, you see the guy that is really pushing the ball downfield and attacking those safeties is Ray McLeod and it's Kyle Pitts, and allowing Drake London to do the work underneath. And that's what's been working with the Atlanta Falcons. Okay? That's what's been working for the Atlanta Falcons. No need to change it up, no need to switch it up. But that's what the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver does. He does most of his work in between that 7 to about 10 to 15 yards. That's what Drake London, that's where he eats it. George Pickens is probably one of the best top players like you talking about. And that's the thing with George Pickens. George Pickens is a guy that attacks downfield. And to be honest, I'm going to be real, man. That Dallas Cowboy team is going to be a problem if he continues to do that, because not only you have CD Lamb, but you got George Pickens that's going to be able to attack the ball downfield. I don't know what their offense, I don't know what their running going to be what it's going to look like with Dallas. I don't necessarily like their offensive line. I don't like their running back core, but I do know that CD Lamb and George Pickens is going to make some noise. And to be honest, you look at Philadelphia, like I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with George Pickens and CD Lamb. Just going to be real about that. So I know a lot of people are not looking at Dallas to be a team that's going to make some noise. But if they get a George Pickens that's ready to get paid and is focused and he's getting the ball, and I'm sure that Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott is going to try to help get this boy the ball, okay? I'm telling y'all right now, do not sleep on the Dallas Cowboys offense. Now, defensively, that's a whole nother story. But do not sleep on that Dallas Cowboy offense with those two dangerous wide receivers right there. So, ain't nobody worried about no Cartier, whatever the hell his name is. So, like I said, man, a lot of people just so they got it twisted. So, like I said, I'm gonna do a lot more of these 20 to 30-minute live shows, so y'all get used to it. And like I said, man, the questions are gonna keep coming, but I had to get this straight. Again, everybody like to try to compare Kyle Pitts to a wide receiver. He's never been that, okay? That's not what he does. He has straight line speed. He doesn't have a lot. And to be honest, like I've seen Drake at practice. Drake is very good at those them deep outs and them dig routes. And sometimes he one thing I say about Drake that I love is that he's able to he got a counter for cornerbacks that sit on those out routes and sit on them dig routes. And that's how he end up getting open, deep. But a lot of times he doesn't necessarily have that speed. Well, most of the time he doesn't have the ability to get past those safeties. You never really see Drake burn past the cornerback like that because he doesn't have that speed. And that's the thing I keep telling people, like, yeah, Drake has a lot of numbers, but he had 100 catches based on 158 targets, I think it was. 58 targets. So he's the main guy. He's the main receiver that a lot of our quarterbacks are going to. He's a quarterback best friend. Big physical receiver that can hold on to the ball. That's what Drake London is. He can use his size. And again, you go back to guys like Michael Irvin, Mike Evans. That's what they do. They use their size and for them, because a lot of times, even if he doesn't run a crisp route, even though, sometimes corners are right on him, his hands and his size is how he ended up getting open. And again, I'm telling you, I played the quarterback position myself. Your best friend as a quarterback is a big physical receiver. That's it. Sometimes it's hard to kind of build a chemistry with receivers that are fast, because sometimes they can outrun you. So it becomes a timing thing with fast receivers. But with a big physical receiver, it doesn't matter the timing a lot of times. Why? Because these guys are going to use their size and use their hands to come down with the pass. So you can throw the ball just up in the air, where they can only get it. And them big receivers are going to come down with it. So it really don't matter as much with the timing when it does with a guy like a Marvin Harrison, so to speak, a George Pickens. Like, those guys are fast. They can attack downfield. But with a big physical receiver, you can just throw it anywhere near him and he's going to come down with it. And that's what Drake London is. You heard anything about Kyle Pitts, unicorn? His foot. Look, I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, it's training camp. It's the off season. The Falcons is just not trying to do too much. To be honest, why would you want to? I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, he's a big guy. Most of these players are dealing with something coming back into a season. You know what I'm saying? So, we got Bijan Robinson hanging out, doing work with the McCaffreys. So that's one thing that, I'm seeing. And then, as far as Michael Penix, not seeing a lot, but like I said, right now it's just a dead period. I haven't really heard anything about Kyle Pitts. It's just the team just being cautious with it. But for the most part, I think he'll be fine. Phillips snagged a few on Drake during training camp, and that's the thing I'm saying. It's like I said, Drake is not a guy that's a great route runner. He's good at what he does, but he's not a great route runner. But again, when you 6'4", 215 pounds, you don't need to run. You don't need to be an excellent route runner. Just use your size, use your physicality, and that's what Drake is very good at. That's how he got to the NFL, being extremely physical. That's where that. A lot of times, that's what gets you paid. Catch the ball, be physical. And Drake is obviously one of the better blockers. I think he's the best blocker in the NFC South by far at the receiver core. I don't think he's even close when it comes down to him being best blocker. Drake wins 50 balls. Drake is more like a 90-10. And that's the thing, Jew. Like I said, Drake is not necessarily, and like I said, we've seen him at training camp. A lot of Falcon fans who've been to training camp and saw Drake. Drake is not super fast. He's just very good at coming down with coming down with the pass. That's it. And again, this is a quarterback's best friend. I'm telling you right now. Why do you think Matt Ryan loved Julio and Mohamed Sanu so much? Why do you think Matt Ryan loved Tony Gonzalez? Big physical receivers that are just, they not super athletic outside of Julio Jones. They're not super athletic, but they use their physicality. I've seen games where Julio Jones is double and sometimes triple covered, but him being so big and so physical, he was able to come down with a lot of passes, a la the Carolina game. I mean, he was just destroying all DBs because of his physicality. Wasn't necessarily his speed, but he was just super physical. The Green Bay game where he just chucked the ball, caught the motherfucking, caught the damn crossing route, shrugged off a DB, mushed the damn safety. That's the physicality. So a lot of the time in football, being able to run crisp routes really ain't that big of an issue. It really ain't that big of a concern because guys are big and physical. Big and physical. The big physical wide receivers actually give you more hell than a guy like Tariq Hill. Now, Tariq Hill is one of those little guys that you can't just take his speed, his toughness for granted because, look, he'll catch a slant. Yeah, he'll run past you, but that's a little cocky, little strong little dude. But what really drives a lot of DBs crazy is being physical with them. I mean, we've seen, the Mike Evans and AJ Terrell. You've seen AJ Terrell against the Mike Thomas. We've seen those. We've seen quite a few guys with a big physical receiver that end up giving a lot of, Marshawn Lattimore, we've seen him going against big physical wide receivers and he end up losing a lot of big plays because these guys are physical. So again, this is why Drake is the best. He's one of the number one targets for quarterback because he's comfortable. Quarterbacks are comfortable with him. Would you trade Kit? Hell no. No, absolutely not. I'm not trading no Kyle Pitts for no Trey Henderson. No. I'm not paying any defensive end $30 million. They can go to absolute hell. No. I will start over and I'll get younger. Edge guys. I'm not paying any defensive end no $30 million. He can go to hell. Absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. I'm not paying it unless you goddamn Lawrence Taylor reincarnated or Aaron Donald reincarnated. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You got to be crazy. Those look. Look. You look at Baltimore. Perfect example. Yeah, they paid their quarterback $50 million, but once you start paying them guys, man, like every aspect of the team start to fall apart because you don't have money to bring in quality players, to keep the quality players. So I'm not paying no Trey Henderson in his 30s $30 million plus. Absolutely not. No. I'm keeping Kyle Pitts for this year, keeping my draft picks. No, absolutely not. Hell no. And Drew says Matt knew Roddy, Julio, and Sanu will fight for the ball. And again, this is what I'm saying. What a lot of times with a lot of these receivers, most of the big physical receivers are the ones that high volume catches, and those are the ones that get a lot of targets because what you said, the quarterback know they're gonna fight for. He can throw those 50-50 balls in the middle of the field, and you know Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu and a Drake London is going to get because he's the best. You don't always have to be the best route runner in order to become a top receiver. The quarterback just have to know to trust you that you're going to fight for the ball if they throw the ball in your area. Anquan Bolden wasn't fast, but he was dangerous in the middle field because he would fight. He knew how to use he knew how to use his size. He knew how to use his strengths. He knew how to do that. He knew how to sit in certain spots. And those are the things you look at Drake London. He knows when to sit down on. And like I said, Drake is just a big physical wide receiver. And those types of guys, and to be honest, in this Atlanta Falcons offense, they use Drake London more like a tight end than anything. They use him in the slot a lot more because they know they got a tool like Kyle Pitts that's going to take those safeties away. They got a guy like Ray McCoy, they're going to take those safeties away. They got guys like Mooney, they're going to take those safeties away. So we can just ball to Drake all day. Have him have one-on-one, because guess what? We got 3 guys that's pushing the ball that help pushing those safeties downfield and keeping those, the lanes clean for the most part for a guy like Bijan Robinson. So, and that's the great thing about having a Kyle Pitts on this offense, is that he can push the safeties back. That's the very important. Look, I know a lot of people don't like the fact that he doesn't have 10 touchdowns and 1,000 yards, but Kyle Pitts is extremely important to this offense, y'all. This is why Drake London is allowed to have 158 targets. He's not getting double teamed like that. Because we got Ray, because we got Kyle, because we got Mooney. This is how he's able to have those big time numbers. He's very important, y'all. One of the things about football is that you use everybody else to help open up. It's about spacing in football. Spacing is everything for offenses. Spacing is everything for offense. Okay? It's everything for offense. So again, man, guys like Tony G, another guy, big physical, wasn't super fast and super athletic, especially after year 10 or so. He just wasn't the same type of athlete, but he knew how to use his body. He knew how to use his hand, and he knew how to go up and win those 50-50 passes, throwing the ball in the back of the end zone. That's what he is. But the thing is, again, I know a lot of people are down on Kyle Pitts, but the quarterback, we haven't had a quarterback that can get the ball in those tight spaces and push the ball downfield since Matt Ryan and be accurate with it. Matt Ryan is the only quarterback you look at this guy that was able to do that. Kirk Cousins, when he came here with the Atlanta Falcons, you look at the first 8 games or so with the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts was at about 400, almost 500 yards in the first 8 games, and then he just tailed off because the quarterback couldn't push the ball down the field again. So those are the things that's important. All right, so like I said, man, we're gonna kind of call it quits for now. We got a live show coming right up, a wrestling take. Like I said, I'm gonna get more and more live shows like this during the course of the day. So like I said before, y'all please keep y'all comments. All right, keep your comments, because we use every one of these comments as a way to, keep us busy. For one, keep us busy, but entertain y'all in the off season when there isn't a lot of things out there. But like I said, I do not want to hear people comparing Drake London and Kyle Pitts, because both of those guys have completely different skill sets. Drake London is a big physical wide receiver. He's able to get out his breaks. Okay? He wins with physicality. Kyle Pitts is a guy that wins with not only physicality, but he has the speed to get downfield and attack those safeties. This dude is crazy explosive. Okay? He's crazy explosive. Safeties don't like guys like Kyle Pitts. I'm just telling y'all that right now. You see a guy that's 6'6", that can run past. I got a guy that can run past cornerbacks and run past safety. Kyle Pitts is dangerous. Okay, I'll show you guys. If you want me to show you again about what a Kyle Pitts does and how a lot of these guys end up having like a lot of Well, Bill Belichick like to use like kind of like box. They use a lot of box coverages around Kyle Pitts. So a lot of times people think he open when he really isn't, because he has a lot of time he have a safety on the outside. A lot of time the corners are playing the outside with Kyle Pitts, and they're giving him the inside. So a lot of time you don't see Kyle Pitts being able to go outside. You never see Kyle Pitts wide open on the outside. Most of the time you see Kyle Pitts is always he's open on the inside, because they're daring the quarterback to be able to fit those passes in between the safety, the cornerbacks, and that linebacker. So with a guy like Michael Penix, who can make those throws with his arm, that's why a Drake London and a Kyle Pitts is going to be sick this year. You're going to see a lot of touchdowns with Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the middle of the field like we saw. One with Kyle Pitts. He caught that one almost identical spot where Drake London caught his. So you're going to see a lot of those because they're daring the quarterback to be able to fit that ball between the safety, the corner, and the linebackers, because they're going to box. They usually box Kyle Pitts in. So that's what you're going to see. So my thoughts on Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I think both of those guys are going to have about 7 touchdowns apiece because of what Michael Penix can do. Like that dude, when I tell you, that dude got a sick arm, man. And he's going to drive a lot of defensive coordinators insane because he has that ability to make those throws. And we haven't seen that since Vic. We have not seen that since Vic. Okay, we have not seen that since Vic. That with that ability to make those tight throws between the cornerbacks, safeties, in the middle of the field. Drake London and Kyle Pitts are going to have a lot of fun with that dude. So with that being said, man, about to get ready for this wrestling recap. Y'all head over. I believe it's on Unholy Line Show. But that's all I got to say about that, man. Dre, John, appreciate it. That's all I got to say. And Jew need to get off his ass, okay? Jew need to get off his ass and give y'all a live show. Jew, when y'all got a live show? When you got a live show? He been putting out a lot of content, but Jew ain't been putting, Jew ain't been doing no live show for y'all. I'm just waiting on Jew to respond, y'all. So he'll give y'all a live show real soon. I know he got a baby girl. She 4 months? I think 4 months or so. Yeah, somewhere in there. 4 or 5 months, somewhere in there. Soon. You see, y'all? He just said soon. So y'all get a live show for Jude real quick. I'm force him to make a decision, y'all. So y'all stay tuned for that. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get off here, I'm gonna head to the chat and ask you when he gonna give y'all that live show, and I'll announce that for y'all. So I'm out of here, man. Peace.